no bigger topic than AI. We're in the age of AI, and it's actually changing. And as you know, almost every CEO thinks they're the chief AI officer. This has completely changed the game in the marketplace. But the topic at Jure is actually agentic AI. Let's start there with agentic AI. What is it? Let's define it, because we went through classical ML, we went through Gen AI, and now we're in a world of agentic AI.
I will give you the classical definition, right? It is systems that can sense, act, learn, everything. But these are only three senses. I believe that we're going to a point where the systems will actually feel, the systems will listen better, systems can touch, and I think all five senses will be covered eventually.
Yeah, and when we think about agentic AI, though, the shift is really to business outcomes, right? We have personified agents. Let's be honest, these are function calls on a cron job.
Yeah.
But they're actually bigger than that. They think, they decide, back to your point on the sense. There are people looking for outcomes. There are people looking for ROI. What's really out there?
The big shift, Ray, is the enterprise is going to move from being a statically hardwired entity, and because of these agents become a more dynamic, adaptive, living being. Because agents are not static hardwired beings, they're adaptive and sort of I would simulate living beings like humans are. The entire enterprise or the architecture, the business models were all created for humans to work on business workflows and with systems handling them. And somewhere over time, humans became more focused on figuring out the systems than figuring out the business. Now, with AI coming into play, the AI can take care of the operational redundancy that's within the enterprise and take care of that, while humans can focus on higher value stuff.
You know, we were right. There's two parts to the equation, right? We have deterministic processes, which we can completely automate. You only have to think about this. These are the systems, right? But the probabilistic areas are the part where we didn't spend a lot of time.
Yes.
How do we make a decision? How does a human make a decision? And what confidence level is good enough? What use cases are you seeing there?
And the use cases, cases like marketing and sales, where you just need enough information to figure out what your customer's intent is and be able to reach out to the right customer segment. We can do so much better with probabilistic systems. Can we start closing our books with AI? Not yet. We still want to depend on those deterministic systems or a combination of that and probabilistic systems in finance. But a lot of the financial operations which were redundant, which are repeatable, can be now agentified. And that's where the value is. Take care of all of that stuff which can now be agentified and drive more, I call it hyperproductivity. There's one more thing which is very interesting. One is hyperproductivity that you can get by offsetting parts of the workflow with AI. The other part is that technology is able to bring enterprise intelligence together on a common plane. That's a very important foundation. If you build that foundation right, now you have all humans within the enterprise, all personas within the enterprise, feeding off the same brain, the same intelligence pool. Now that will start to create new value pools and new opportunities and more efficacy and efficiency in the way you do business. And will start to unearth things you never knew. That's very important.
No, that's right. I mean, that omni-observability, which is really giving us the ability to get to situational awareness, which we couldn't get to before. That level of combined consciousness is happening. At the process level, we basically have four choices, right? When do we fully intelligently automate? When do we augment the machine with the human? When do we augment the human with the machine? And then do we actually have the human touch? Every organization is going through that. And there's a level of confidence, right? Let me ask you, 85% confidence in customer experience. Are you okay with that? Not too bad.
Not too bad.
Not too bad. 85% accuracy in supply chain? 100%. I'm in
But
trouble.
what?
85% accuracy, I'm in trouble.
But I really feel we can get there. Eventually we get there because your supply chains will become truly dynamic. There's intelligence.
But they will be. But we've got it might be 90%, right? 85% accuracy in finance. No. All right. And so it's going to depend on right? Order to cash, incident resolution, whether it's going to procure to pay, concept to commercialization. Each one has a different level of confidence inside each organization. And what you're talking about, the dynamic nature, is where it's actually coming together. We're grabbing more data. We're grabbing more inputs. We're refining the models.
Yeah.
And this is why it's so different than RPA, different than workflow automation.
You bring up a very good point about the applicability within different scenarios. I would, however, just flip it a little bit. The approach we are taking is customer in, not technology out. I never start with that.
No, we shouldn't.
And I don't think about whether AI can fit and work here or not. I'm only trying to solve a customer's problem.
Right.
Whether it's a finance leader, or it's a supply chain leader, or it's a marketing person, or it's somebody else. I start with the customer. I feel there's an opportunity to redefine experience architectures here. Think about customer service. Do you love the customer service?
Nobody does.
Right? You don't.
Huh?
It's different. There's a way you can completely reimagine it. So start with the customer, reimagine the experience for them, the associates, the partners. Start with that and then work backwards from that and then see how the technology can help you. What I'm seeing is billions of dollars being spent on technology out, which is great. We're part of that too. But not everybody's spending time customer.
It's a good point. Lots of productivity with no, lots of AI with no productivity is really just cost.
The boring stuff is the important stuff, right, in our business. So when a person says, I can process a claim for $20 and it takes hours, if I can do it for $5 and do it in minutes, they love it.
Well, let's take your customer service example. Mm-hmm. I mean, my $5 an hour in Mexico, $7 an hour in India, $9 an hour in Columbus, Ohio, it's going to go to $1, right? I mean, that transition from 5 to 3 to 1 is going to be pretty powerful.
And I'll give you another example. I was talking to one of the top retailers out there, Big Five. And I said, do not identify the people who talk to your customers and do not send them somewhere else. And I said, because I love the fact that whenever I call you, somebody in your warehouse, somebody in your store picks up and talks to me. But then take away all the grunt work. Take away all the stuff that can be handled by those agents so that people can spend time with people on stuff which really matters. So redesigning things with just technology in mind is the biggest error. That's the biggest drawback, the biggest thing we can get wrong here. Just reimagine our experiences. And the other point I would say is enterprises are very different.
Yeah.
Right? This is not, you can do a POC in a startup, say this is an awesome product. It won't go anywhere in an enterprise till you actually build something enterprise grade. You need the right foundation for the technology to work.
Well, we saw this in supply chain. We see lots of opportunities to take a $50 million operation to a $10 million operation, maybe to $1 million in software.
Yeah.
But the problem is there's no outcomes on the software side. You still need delivery.
Yeah.
So we're actually seeing them take $1 million software project, turn it to $10 million, because now you have SLAs, you have an outcome-based pricing. How ready are customers for outcome-based?
They are ready. They're always ready. They just want to make sure that there's transparency in how you will deliver. If you can underwrite risk, if I'm taking a flight, if I can unlock the capital needed for your transformation, if I can underwrite the risk here and commit to the outcome, will you take the plunge with me? They say, I guess. But tell us, how will you do that? Because we want to make sure we don't see at the end of the tunnel. We want to make sure you and I are both successful.
I'm smiling. I think in the AI age, every company becomes an underwriter and insurance company because of the data. I mean, you're right on the outcomes. If I can insure the outcomes, privately insure the outcomes, and get reinsurance for the outcomes from a reinsurance provider, people are willing to bet on them.
I just did a new with a client where I basically said, your customer service sucks. It's really bad. Let's transform it. Let's start with that end goal. We will transform it. And then let me figure out how to fund that transformation. I'll take care of it. I will bring the technology in. I will transform your customer. I'll redesign it. I'll commit to the outcomes. And I start giving you the savings. All you have to do is work with it. Those are the kind of models we get to get into. Because if you're confident about this, and if you're not just winging it, we're not just walking the walk, then we can actually make it happen.
We're in an age where expertise is a commodity, experience is important. Connecting the dots are so critical. Talk about your team and how they're actually bringing together multiple industry models, multiple experiences and geos, the ability to work with different types of business models. It's all coming together right now.
So as the Chief Business Officer for AI, the first thing I had to do was bring a different kind of team together. You cannot put old wine in a new bottle unless you got a pig and make this work. So my team consists of strategists. These are industry and domain strategists. So they know marketing, they know finance, they know telco, they know healthcare. Now, they're human-centered AI designers. And then they're AI engineers, full stack. and they're on in one team. And all that they do is they go to a client and say, give us the most difficult problem to solve. And let's start with one problem. And they then quickly figure out the blueprint for solving that problem and bring that blueprint to life. It's very important to spend time ensuring that you're solving the right problem and you're solving it with the right way before you go out and productionize everything. With this new technology, that's the most critical part. And we want to get that right.
You know what? This is a level above forward deployed engineering. This is the important piece. I mean, FDEs were just the start.
Yeah.
But we're actually saying that you have to merge multiple disciplines together to get there. Now, what's the most important thing you should be telling a CXO in this age when you meet them? What should they be hiking about?
I would say it is time to be bold. It is time to rethink the operating model. Otherwise, this is not going to. I think the sponsorship has to come from the top. I think the C-suite has to be an active part, not sitting on the sidelines. And then to make it real, work bottom up. So start one process at a time. Identify that. Eventually, you will transform your domain. Eventually, you transform your enterprise. There's no magic bullet. But you're going to get going quickly because your customers, every one of them, is using the technology. I mean, that technology becomes so pervasive that everybody's using it. If you don't act now, you will be left behind.
It's a very important point. We're experiencing time compression that we've never seen before. And we actually believe that what we know 85% of today's Fortune 500 is only growing at single digits, right? And we also think that most of the CEOs, we think that a third of the CEOs will be gone in the next 2 years because there's no playbook. They're going to leave at the top. But the problem is there's no playbook. This has never been done before. So what do you tell a CEO tonight? What do they need to do when they come to you? You're just at a major conference.
I visited a room full of about 100 CXOs. Most of them were chief operating officers, some CEOs, some CIOs. There was a common theme in the room. There was a sense of urgency. I will give you that. I did not see that 2 years back. No, I'm seeing it now. They're all feeling it. But they're all saying, listen, we are focusing on the productivity gains for this technology, which is awesome. But don't just use this as an automation tool. This is an opportunity to reimagine your business. But like everything in an enterprise, it requires change management. It will require a lot of heavy lift on the risk and change management side for this tool. My advice to them is start acting, create a steering committee, create a set of leaders whose job depends on making this happen. But don't just talk about AI. Talk about reimagining your business.
You're completely right. We had 120 public CEOs and board of directors. Our CEO, Ravi, was with us. This is an age of margin compression. People are working 10 times harder to stay still. It is ridiculous. This is also a world of exponential scale. You have to be 10x, 100x, 1000x. And if you don't reimagine your business, you're not even going to come close. But the good news is we're in an era of infinite possibilities. We can code at the speed of thought, but strategy is about what you're not going to do. And if you don't have your order of operations, actually, if you don't have your precision in order of operations, you only get speed and no velocity, and you're not going to make it to the next level. Thank you so much for sharing your insights.
Thank you very much, Ray.